Hi there, this is Lori Edge-Hughes, and this is your 4-Leg Rehab Minute. And in today's minute, I want to talk about ribs and rib dysfunctions because my Saturday patients really presented. It was rib day. And so that's what I want to talk about. So what was really interesting, I had my first rib dog of the day was golden retriever who had a spinal meningitis when he was just a young dog under a year of age. And that was sometime during the pandemic, 2022, let's say. So what he looked like at the time was really tender in through here, but tender to a point that it didn't quite add up. And then ever since then, and yeah, he was put on steroids and everything else, and he's pretty much remission and been good ever since, but he always has some issues in through here. So that's kind of the norm. But the history was he had, more recently, been having troubles in his obedience class that when he would go to sit, the owner said he just kind of looked like, okay, let me do it. And he looked super uncomfortable. So she would get in there and massage away, and he would be a little bit better so that he could, continue on with his training. So all well and fine. So what do I go in and what do I find? Well, he's really tender in the ribs, and he's a little bit tender in the thoracic spine, but that's his normal. So what I got thinking, well, okay, I got to figure out what this other piece is. Everything else was normal and fine. So I deep dove into this thorax region. I did. And what I ended up finding was one rib, it was like tender, and then of the group of tender ribs, it's like, gosh, this one rib feels like it's more depressed or more ventral than the other guys. So I did some generic rib techniques, he was way braver than this dog. Anyways, did some generic just kind of rotations and all the rest. But then when I was like, okay, I'm not making a dent on this one rib. So I essentially went to, okay, I want to treat this rib, not generic. I want to kind of go find where he's attached. And I did a rotation mobilization, which if you haven't taken one of my spine courses, doesn't mean much to you. But anyway, so I blocked the two spinous processes that are attached to this rib and did my rotation mob, okay? And it made a mobilization, not a high velocity, low amplitude thrust. Anyways, and my rotation, it made a little, and then everything was free of tenderness. Everything felt better. Nothing was spasmy after that. I'm like, wow. So anyways, lasered it up, some fascial stuff, and I guess we'll see how that goes. But it was really quite interesting. Then, my next two patients, were a couple of pugs. And so the one little pug, she has this funny little stilted gait, and what I found with her was some tenderness at rib 1 and rib 2, okay, or I guess we come at it from here in the axilla to find rib 1, rib 2, okay, and same thing, I was like, okay, well, let's just do a mobilization, and she was about as brave as the borzoi, so she did do but after I fixed that, she was like, nothing was tender anymore, even the neck felt better, so she was good, a little bit of laser, and then she went and basically had a big old nap in the corner of the room while I worked on the other pug. And the other pug also had a couple of spots where it's like, in particular, you could sort of feel, okay, and this is kind of what I want to get at, is like, okay, you can see Xana here is, she's got little twitchy twitches, but what was really interesting on that pug is you could kind of go along and you found one here we go, be kind of like this guy, one rib that was like way stiff compared to all the other guys. So everybody else had a nice bouncy rib, okay, and then this one particular rib was like stiff. Oh no. So that's the rib we mobilized. It also made a little, right, to the point that everyone was like, what was, no, it didn't make that noise. To the point that everyone's like, whoa, was that your thumb or was that the rib? I said, well, there were 2 clicks and the first one was my thumb and the second one was the rib. And again, not high velocity, low amplitude, just kind of like a grade 4 mob or grade 4 hold. And it made a nice little, can I play on you and you not cry? It's very unlikely that I won't cry at some point. I know. Not the most stoic of dogs. But anyways, and that was my Saturday of ribs. And the moral of the story is, you know, sometimes you can get away with some generic, you know, rib springing or generic, oh God, she's going to cry again, where you're blocking a hole of the rib cage and mobilizing rotation or mobilizing with a distraction mob, whichever of those. But oftentimes, and I have this problem in my own ribs, you need to be specific. So, ribs, what's our title? Rib specificity. I don't know, we'll think of something. But there you go. Just a short talk about ribs, and until next time, cheers.